I just bought the weirdest Toyota ever built. It's a JDM model that I just imported from Japan, and it's so strange. So it just arrived at the port today, and I can't wait to show it to you. Let's go pick it up. So I'm a huge fan of Japanese domestic market cars, especially those that never made it here to the States. I guess I really just enjoy driving around cars that aren't really supposed to be here. So I recently imported a 97 Toyota Caldina GTT, which I love. I also imported a Toyota Chaser, and I guess I'm still sort of on a Toyota kick. Well, sort of. The car I'm headed to get right now is built by Toyota, but it doesn't have any Toyota branding on it. So a couple months ago, I bid on a 2000 WiLL VI, which looks like this. Yes, it's odd, like really odd. So I went through the whole process of importing this vehicle, and I just got the notice that it arrived at the port today. So we'll get into all the details on this wacky little car pretty soon, but right now let's go pick it up. So here it is, my 2000 WiLL VI. So you might be wondering, for a company like Toyota that isn't exactly known for taking risks with weird designs or off-the-wall designs, why the heck did they build this? Before we take a close look at this ridiculous, tiny, sort of French-looking vehicle, let's do a WiLL history lesson and figure out why this thing even exists. So even though we've got a WiLL badge here, WiLL wasn't a car company. It's much more wild than that. It was more like a grand experiment in collaborative marketing, intent on attracting younger buyers. The project originated from within Toyota, but the execution spans far greater than just cars. Toyota joined forces with several major Japanese companies under this initiative, bringing together all sorts of products under the WiLL brand name. Asahi Breweries created WiLL branded alcohol. Panasonic made a WiLL branded refrigerator, washing machine, computer, and even a fax machine. There were WiLL air fresheners, WiLL stationery. There were even WiLL travel services, WiLL candies, chocolates, and even bicycles. And that brings us to the WiLL cars, built by Toyota. So the WiLL VI was launched in January 2000 as a compact sedan aimed at single women in their late 20s. According to Toyota, WiLL stands for people who are determined and forward-thinking. The V in VI stands for vehicle, and the I stands for identity, independence, and individuality, as well as being the personal pronoun I. Yeah, it all sounds like a bunch of marketing bullshit, but hey, at least they were trying something different. Just look at this weird thing. This design arrived at the tail end of the retro fuel design craze in Japan of the late 90s, early 2000s. Based on the first generation Toyota Vitz, its body was shaped with exaggerated curves, converging planes, parallel grooves embossed on the body panels, an arched beltline, and a backward slanting rear window reminiscent of a horse-drawn carriage. So I'm not exactly sure who within Toyota thought a horse-drawn carriage theme was going to excite younger buyers, but they tried it anyway. Even with that odd choice, overall the car just gives off a super friendly look, which I love. There was even an optional canvas top reminiscent of classic French cars. The big reason why you may have never heard of the WiLL VI is because just not that many were sold. During 2 years of production, they built around 16,000 cars, not quite meeting Toyota's target of 1,500 per month. Compared to its sister car, the Vitz, it was quite a bit more expensive, and Toyota sold nearly 700,000 Vitz models during that same time frame. After a 2-year run, the VI was discontinued, and 2 other WiLL vehicles followed, the VS and the Sypha, both strange in their own ways. In the end, was the WiLL brand a success? Each of the products had varying degrees of acceptance in the marketplace, but when it came to the cars, none of them really took the world by storm. The company pulled the plug on WiLL in 2004. But that didn't stop Toyota from trying a similar youth-focused approach in the US with Scion. So the VI just sort of remains a quirky rarity, Toyota's bold but short-lived attempt to inject a youthful personality into a small car. All right, so before we do a walk around of this thing, there are several items that need to be addressed. The battery is very dead. This was also the case with the last two cars that I imported. They sit for a while before being loaded onto a cargo ship, and then it's a couple weeks sailing on the open seas. And by the time the car gets here, the battery is donezo. So let's swap that out. So one thing you'll notice is that the battery terminals on a Japanese domestic market battery are a lot smaller than they are on a US market battery. So they make these little adapters that allow you to connect your US market battery to the Japanese style terminals. All right, so these tires, they are beyond terrible, lots of cracks. I kind of wonder if these auction houses in Japan throw on the worst possible tires and garbage batteries before shipping cars overseas. The good news is that these tires are very cheap, though not exactly a common size. One of the only other cars here in the States that uses this tire size is a smart car. All right, so let's do a little walk around of my funky new vehicle. So you know that retro revival trend that was so popular here in the States in the early 2000s? Well, as it turns out, that trend hit Japan a little bit earlier than it did here. Really kind of starting with the Nissan Pike cars in the late 80s and the early 90s. And there were some others throughout the 90s as well. Toyota was a bit behind in reacting to this retro trend, and the VI was their maybe a bit too late response. So I can't help but think that some of those cute small cars from the 60s were an influence, especially with this cliff-cut rear window. It's very uncommon for a production car to have this quirk. The Mazda Carol had it from like the late 60s to early 70s, I think. The Ford Anglia, maybe even a bit of Citroen Ami 6 influence. But none of those cars paired that really raked window with this style trunk. It's very odd. So the VI was actually designed by a then new division within Toyota. They called it the Virtual Venture Company, and the goal of the division was to target young customers. And that started with a group of young Toyota employees that were tasked with determining the needs and desires of younger customers. But I'm not really quite sure they nailed it with this design. This is an odd bird. I mean, I can totally understand if you're not into it, and I can see why they never really sold all that well. It's not a mainstream design. Some have even said that it's, quote, aesthetically challenged. But to me, it's just so different that I kind of love it. Yes, it has some exaggerated curves and some strangely converging lines. Got these weird extended wheel arches. But ultimately, I think the thing just looks friendly. I'm a big fan of these embossed grooves, and I even like these wheel covers that are sort of reminiscent of sand dollars. I really dig these amber turn signals which you have in the front and on the side. There's that bright orange WiLL logo, and you'll notice that there's no Toyota branding anywhere here. I mean, if you look close, you'll see it on the glass, but that's about it. Got exposed hinges for the trunk right back here. Kind of tiny little mirrors on either side. And take a close look at this greenhouse right here. There is a lot of space in there. This is kind of a tall vehicle for how small it is. Yeah, and you can kind of see that it's pretty dirty. I really need to wash this car. Really in pretty good condition, except for a tiny, tiny bit of clear coat peeling right here on the top of the rear doors. But that's it. Overall, the exterior is in very nice shape. All right, so let's step inside this thing. All right, so the first thing that you'll notice when you step inside is the abundance of brown and tan. And this dashboard that totally reminds me of a baguette. And this is something that we don't often find nowadays. It's this lovely bench seat, lots of space. And this dashboard mounted shifter is definitely reminiscent of some of those shifters that you might find on a French car in the 60s. These sort of embossed pill shapes continue on this interior on the steering wheel and also on that baguette style dashboard. Not really a whole lot of storage in here. You got a little tiny compartment to the right, a little space down here under the stereo. No glove box at all, but they do have this little pocket where you have the original owner's manual and a bunch of other cool stuff in here that I can't read. The only thing that kind of feels a little bit out of place is this center console that feels a little bit more like it's just kind of straight out of a Toyota Vitz. It's very reminiscent to what I have in my Scion XB. The layout is exactly the same for the HVAC controls, just different shaped buttons. And then we have a cassette player and a CD player here. I'll have to see if those both work. But one of the things about this vehicle that is just so impressive is how much space there is in here. Now the VI is a subcompact car, but it's actually pretty tall in here and it has so much room. So in terms of front seat space, front seat headroom, legroom, it's just insanely good. You know, not really a whole lot in terms of comfort here. It's just sort of a flat bench seat, but it's not bad. Another thing that I really like about this car is the metal door panels and A-pillars right here. It matches the color of the car. Brown and silver maybe don't go together that well, but it's different for sure. A little pocket here on the side for some things. I don't know if this is real leather, but it kind of looks like a leather door pull. And then you have window controls and door handles that are very much like Toyotas of the era. And also like the Toyota Echo and my Scion XB, you got center mounted gauges. I know a lot of people like to complain about that back in the day, but I really appreciate it. So yeah, it's a little bit dirty in here. I need to clean up the upholstery, got to clean up the carpet a little bit. Steering wheel needs a little bit of a cleaning. But in general, I'd say it's in pretty good condition considering this vehicle is 25 years old. I actually don't even know how many kilometers are on it. Let's see, 112,000 kilometers. So this car is barely broken in. All right, so one thing that I'm not looking forward to is checking out the back seat because it is tiny. Reluctantly, check it out. All right, before I go and sit in the back seat, I want to show you this sort of unique design for this rear door panel. You can see that the rear door completely covers the C-pillar and it sort of wraps around to this crazy raked rear window. So you open it up, you can see that when I shut it, that covers the entire thing. So because this has such a weird door design, Toyota thought that it might actually be a bit of a safety issue because a lot of doors don't shut like this, having the door kind of wrap around to the back of the vehicle. They thought it might be a safety issue of people kind of getting their fingers stuck right here. So they have this little warning label there with a little crab warning you that your fingers might get pinched. So yeah, anytime you want to get in the back seat of a WiLL VI, watch your fingies. Also notice that the door opening is incredibly small. Not only does the door not open very far, but the space to actually get in the vehicle is minuscule. So let's see if I can actually fit back here. All right, so my seat is set for myself. I'm 6'3". Yeah, this isn't gonna work. I'd have to basically move my seat up to the point where I wouldn't be able to drive the car. So I think if you have any tall friends, they're not gonna wanna sit back here. If you got some kids, they'll probably be pretty happy. Actually a decent amount of headroom back here though, but I'd have to cut off my legs to fit. I do like this little tag right here though on the door. It says, "We'll be together." Aw, I mean, you'll literally be together. You'll be like smushed together trying to fit back here. So I don't know if that's what they were going for. All right, so how much space do we have in this trunk? Not a ton. You could probably fit a couple bags in here, but that's about it. Got one little strut right here to keep the trunk lid up. This is a very, very oddly shaped cargo area. Severely compromised with the design here, but yeah, don't bring a lot of stuff with you if you're driving a WiLL VI. So underneath this very eccentric bodywork, the mechanicals are actually somewhat ordinary. We've got the 2NZFE engine, which is a 1.3 liter 4-cylinder, and that makes about 87 horsepower and 90 pound-feet of torque. So this is not a race car, if you haven't already noticed. And that small engine is connected to an automatic transmission. This was not offered with a manual, and that is driving the front wheels. Now, the 2NZFE wasn't available in any other cars sold in the States, but it was available in a ton of cars worldwide. So I'm hoping that parts availability isn't too bad. All right, so let's finally drive this thing. So far, the only time that I've driven it is onto a trailer and then back off the trailer. So let's see how this little thing is to drive. All right, I'm looking forward to driving this more than just around my driveway, more than just off a trailer. See what this thing is capable of, all 88 horsepower, or 87 horsepower, whatever it is. Starts right up, just like you'd expect the Toyota to do. Wow, there's so much room in here. A little bit of a squeaky seatbelt, but that's okay. Got my column mounted shifter right here. Oh, that's funny, when you go in reverse, I forgot it beeps. That's pretty annoying. My Prius does that, also annoying. All right, off we go. That guy gave me kind of a strange look, which I'm expecting to get a lot of today driving this thing. This very well may be one of the only WiLL VIs on the road in North America. I did see one for sale in Canada on maybe Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids or something like that not too long ago, but my guess is that not very many other WiLL VIs roaming the streets here in the United States. I've never seen one before. This is the only WiLL VI I've ever seen in my entire life. So I fully expect to get a lot of weird stares and glances and people just sort of confused. All right, so let's get it out of my neighborhood and onto a bit more of a busy road to see how slow this thing accelerates. Now, I have driven cars with fewer horsepower than this, so I'm guessing it's not gonna be terrible. It's not gonna be that bad, right? Right? Let's find out. It's pretty slow. I have the thing floored. It just gets loud. It doesn't actually go any faster. Oh, but it's fine. It's enough to get you onto the freeway. I mean, this isn't a K car. This is actually, 1300 cc's as opposed to 660, which those K cars are limited to. So you can actually drive this thing on the freeway without feeling like you're going to die. Yeah, this is not a sporty car. It's not really a fun to drive car, other than the fact that you're just, in this ridiculous shape. So yeah, not much going on in the handling department either. Kind of feels very top heavy, but yeah, this is not going to handle like a sports car. It's gonna feel like a Toyota Vitz or a Toyota Yaris or a Toyota Echo, because that's basically what it is. But in general, overall, this is in pretty decent shape. I mentioned a couple flaws with it sort of being a little bit dirty in here, but yeah, it drives wonderfully. It's very comfortable. I love the amazing visibility in here. So much space in the front. I probably won't be taking any passengers with me, but lots and lots of space up here in the front. And yeah, I'll take a look at all the basics, do an oil change, take a look at the spark plug wires, spark plugs, that kind of thing. But honestly, I feel like it doesn't really need anything. Knock on the baguette. I guess I'll knock on the baguette for good luck, right? So I've driven it like 3 kilometers so far, and I can already say that I'm going to love this thing. I love the fact that it's just so different and so odd and makes people so confused when they see it. It makes me confused. I'm looking at a baguette in front of me, for f***'s sake. But it's just such a silly car. Oh my God, it's hard to wipe the smile off my face. These things go for next to nothing in Japan. Obviously, it costs a lot of money to get these shipped over to the United States, so ultimately, I don't know if it's worth it. If I absolutely wanted to sell this thing, I don't really know how much it would be worth. But yeah, if you were interested in importing a car that was a bit weird, but also didn't want to spend a ton of money, this could be a decent option. But yeah, this thing is just so much fun to drive because it's just so different. It's so weird. Gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling in my heart, knowing that one of these is cruising around here in Southern California. All right, so there you have it, the latest addition to my fleet, my super weird 2000 WiLL VI. I'm really looking forward to getting this thing detailed and cleaning up, but other than that, this thing just kind of runs like new and I don't really know if it needs any work. What else do you want to know about this car? Let me know in the comments below. All right, that's going to be it for today. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. If you'd like to help support the channel, please buy a Hello Road t-shirt or hat at helloroad.tv/shop. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.